All right. Hello, everyone. Happy Friday. I'm super excited to share another summer PD series for Tech Tips 411 resources. And today we're going to be talking about apps for the 4Cs. So I'm super excited. If you're joining me live, great. Let me know. Drop a comment in the chat so I know that you guys are here. And if you are watching from the future, thank you so much for your time. So let's go ahead and dive in. For those that have stumbled across this video and I don't know, my name is Jennifer Hall and I'm an educational technology specialist with Atlanta Public Schools. And what that means is I provide technology training for teachers around the district and I push into classrooms to help facilitate technology and integrated lessons. Additionally, I collaborate and plan with teachers so that they can best integrate instructional technology in their standards-based lessons. So that's me. And I'm super excited to share a little bit about some apps and tools and ideas that we're using here in Atlanta Public Schools to engage our learners. So the goals for our time today are that we're going to explore apps and tools that foster the 4Cs. And hopefully you're going to gain some project and lesson ideas for fostering the 4Cs. So just a reminder, there are 4Cs, and I added a fifth C because I think it's really important. The 4Cs are communication, collaboration, creativity, and critical thinking. Those are the skills that in the workplace and for college and career readiness that we need to make sure that our students are using those skills, and we need to foster those skills with our learners. And the fifth C that I added in is choice, because I think a lot of times we need to make sure that we provide our students choice, because when they have a little bit of choice, they take ownership in their learning. And so that would be the fifth C. All right. So today's session is going to be really kind of an app rundown. I'm just going to talk about some different apps that I think you might find beneficial and that you might want to use with your learners. And we'll talk about some ways you can use them for projects. So the first one I want to talk about is Book Creator. And I kind of fell in love with Book Creator a lot this week because I had a great training session with John from Book Creator, provided a training for our department. And I told him this. I honestly thought that Book Creator was really more for elementary kids and didn't really think much about it for my middle and high school teachers. And now I've changed my mind. Pretty cool stuff. Book Creator is a online platform. There's a web-based tool and there's an iOS app that you can download, and you can create your own digital books, which is super cool. So this is actually me going in and kind of playing around in the platform here. So you can add in all sorts of media. You can upload stuff from your camera. You can use your pen to do some annotation stuff, do some really cool stuff, add text. It really is geared towards doing like comic book graphic novels, which really has all those tools in there, which is great for students. And you can add in shapes as well. So much creativity options there for students. So it's fostering that creativity. And this is what blew my mind, is it has this marker pen tool. So you can use this on an iPad device and you can do some animation. You can do kids can create their own drawings, but you can also go in, add emojis. Really, there's just all different elements you can add. You can also add in under the medium panel, you can add in and embed resources from the web. So one of the things I also like about it is the fact that you can collaborate. It's very easy for you to share your book creations with your students, so you could have them work in a group on a group project, have them assigned to different pages they need to create in Book Creator. So the first question I always get is this free? There is a free version. You get one library and you get 40 books, and that's enough for you to really share out and work with your students. You can be the lead person and then you share access to the books with your students. If you want to have more libraries, you can get a higher level plan, but it is free to use on the web, and you can also access it on the app. So it's pretty cool. So that's tool number one, Book Creator. So thanks for those that have dropped in the chat. Let me know that you guys are here. I think that's great. As you're tuning in, let me know who's here, and let me know if I talk about a tool that you've used. Let me know how you're using it, how your kids like it, or if you have an idea for using it. So that was tool number one. That is Book Creator. And it touches on all of the C's, because that communication, collaboration, creativity, and critical thinking, all four. So it's pretty good when you can get all four. And then choice, when you give students the choice to pick a tool to create. That's one of my favorite things. So next up is Google Drawings, which for those of you guys that have tuned in for sessions with me before, you know that I absolutely love Google Drawings. It's probably one of my favorite things, and I use it all of the time. Google Drawings is an awesome tool that you can use to create just about anything, graphic organizer, interactive posters. So it's a tool that you as a teacher can create, but your students can create too. So if you're a Google district, your students have access to Google Drawings inside of in your Google Drive. They can go in and create so many different things. It's great for an interactive whiteboard, for photo editing, for creating memes, annotating images. You can have them bring in an image, whether it's a cell that they need to annotate on, or if it's physical features in science and you need them to annotate on that as well. All sorts of options. It's a really, really cool tool to use. So I've done a number of projects with students here in Atlanta, and my personal favorites have been like the planet poster here on the right. These are the ones that students have created. These are created by 6th graders in APS, and I'm just blown away with their creativity. These kids had never seen Google Drawings before. After I went in and introduced the tool to them and showed them how they do basic shape design, they just blew my mind with what they could create. And then over here on the left-hand side is an example of a travel poster that I created as a mock-up example for a 6th grade social studies class that was creating lessons on they were doing posters on the countries that they had visited. So definitely some cool ways to use Google Drawings. So if you're not using Google Drawings and you're not really familiar with it, I have an entire series on me introducing those lessons. I'll put the links to those videos in the description, and you can take a look at that later on if you want to do a deeper dive into Google Drawings. But I'd be remiss if I didn't mention one of my favorite tools, because this really touches on that creativity, because they get a blank canvas and they just get to create. Because you can use the collaboration features inside of Google G Suite for Education. All of those collaborate so well. The sharing feature is awesome. So it works on that collaboration piece. So definitely a great tool to check out if you're not already using it. So check out Google Drawings. So next up is, of course, Flipgrid, because what better tool to use to foster student voice and facilitate their communication skills and getting them to express themselves would be Flipgrid. And I think a lot of people are on the Flipgrid bandwagon, and it just keeps getting better. In fact, if you didn't notice, yesterday on Twitter, they announced that now they've added inside of Flipgrid, they've added the features for fonts, different fonts. So now when you're adding text, you've got font choices. And my thought on that is, fonts help tell a story. Depending on the type of font you use, you're telling me whether it's a cheerful story or if it's a scary story or something like that. So it's a really cool option. So one of the reasons I love Flipgrid is that it fosters all of students' voice. Every single student has the opportunity to participate in the discussion, because as a former ELA teacher, I had students that would monopolize the conversation. They were the main ones. No matter whenever you ask a question, they were always the same kids that would be like, I know. And that one kid you knew that really didn't know the answer, didn't have the opportunity to share. So now Flipgrid gives you that equal opportunity to share. And there's so many different ways you can use Flipgrid. So I've used it for students in action, just different series of responses. I do a Shakespeare project. Didn't get to do it this year because of COVID-19, but normally the students get to respond to their experience using in the filmmaking process. But we had a lot of students that used Flipgrid this year for different projects, including one of my personal favorites. One of the course teachers at one of my middle schools actually had the students record their individual singing, and they pulled those videos down and they compiled it to get a choral performance during virtual learning. There's so many different features inside of Flipgrid that you can go in and you can moderate who has access to it. So I had another teacher that in math teacher, high school, they created TikTok style math videos, and they uploaded them to Flipgrid. So what they did was she moderated the topics so that only that she could see them, and the students could be comfortable with sharing what they're wanting to share inside of Flipgrid as a conversation to the teacher. Another thing that I had another teacher that was really kind of missing out those one-on-one conversations with students that you have when you're face-to-face. So she set up a Flipgrid just for students to be able to kind of, have that space to share. So it really touches on that SEL component as well. So many options for Flipgrid that you can use. I had PE that they did demonstration videos of different skills, basketball, volleyball, things like that. And they did, like step-by-step with information about what's the correct way to play those particular games. So Flipgrid, definitely want to check that one out. One of my favorites. Next up, I want to talk about Soundtrap. And if you're not familiar with Soundtrap, it is a web-based sound studio, basically. So if you're familiar with GarageBand, it's very similar to GarageBand, but the fact that it's cloud-based allows you to collaborate which means that, and it lives in the cloud, which means I can work on it on any device. So I can log in on my laptop at home, or when I get to school, I can log into the computer lab and I can work on my products. So Soundtrap does have an education arm, and you can pay for an education service to have some more support and being able to monitor students' progress. But you can get a free account and you can create 5 projects for free. And 5 projects meaning you can have 5 simultaneous projects. If I finish a project and I export it and I'm done with it, I can delete it and I still can add another new project. So I'm not capped out at the total of 5 projects. I just can have ongoing projects. And what's really cool is you have this mixer studio here, and you can use it to create podcasts. And really, I mean, everybody's all about the podcast right now. And you can create your own original music. You can go in and record voiceovers. And since it's collaborative and web-based, you can add folks to it, and you can say, hey, I want to connect with folks. And you can use different ways to connect, but you can really share via email. And once you share the link to the project, anyone can participate in that project, which is really cool. And if you're a musician and you want to, you can actually record from an instrument directly into Soundtrap, which is really cool. There is a mobile app which comes in handy if you're once we get back into the real world and students can go on field trips. You can actually have them record sounds directly, like do interviews in the field and so forth like that, and record it directly into their Soundtrap app that they have on iOS or Android. So super cool tool for recording audio. It's lots of options and ways you might want to be able to use it. I've got a little quick sheet that kind of gets you started with using Soundtrap, and a tip quick sheet on just getting started with podcasting in your classroom, if that's something that you're interested in doing. There are other tools you can use besides Soundtrap, but I like that the free version lets you at least have 5 projects, and that collaboration, because it's online, makes it really an awesome tool to use. So next up, and how we feeling here? I'm just running through today's all apps for the 4 C's. I'm just running through some apps. Let me know in the chat. Or so far, are we liking some ideas? Are we liking some tools? Are we learning about something that we didn't know about before? Let me know. So next up is Canva, which is another tool that I've really kind of fallen in love with over the summer, or right at the end of the school year, I started using it a lot. And I really went to Canva when I saw that they had ready-made Zoom backgrounds. So if we're going to be on distance learning and you're going to want to be able to have virtual backgrounds, they have really cool options inside of Canva. So Canva is free as well. They have a freemium version. So you have access to a number of resources, but then if you pay for it, you have access to even more resources. So what I like about Canva is the fact that when I go in and I want to say, oh, I want to create a YouTube thumbnail for a video I'm about to record, I can go in and just pick YouTube thumbnail, and it's going to automatically give me that in the right size. So this is really cool for students if you want them to do mock campaigns for businesses, or projects. Like I have an entrepreneurship class I've been working with, and we used Flipgrid for them to practice their pitches on, but Canva is a tool that they can use to create the media that they're going to use to advertise their business. So if I know I need to make something that is Twitter, the right size for Twitter or the right size for Facebook, I can go on Canva and I can just pick one of the templates and it's going to be just the right size. So I do definitely like that. And you also have assets in there. You can organize and you can collaborate in Canva very easily. So 13 and up students can create their own account for free. There is an education arm. If you want to upgrade, you can do that as well. I have a lot of teachers that are using Canva just for their own use to create resources for their learners. But because it is very easy to collaborate, it's a project you could start a template and share with them. And they have a number of templates, including Venn diagrams and Instagram quizzes and all sorts of different things. And you can even create presentations inside of Canva and present directly from there. It's really, really cool. So if you haven't checked out Canva before, definitely check it out. I love it. Nancy says she's never heard of Soundtrap. All right. Are you curious to try it out? I think you should definitely do a little investigating because I think Soundtrap's really cool. I used it to do my tech trip intro music that plays at the beginning of my videos now. I mixed it in there. And I also did like a little voice intro, and I've done some music mixes. In Soundtrap, you can also do things like, I don't know about you, how many times have you been to one of those school programs where everybody has a different song for their performance and everybody has to go to, and I've got to start track 1, I've got to start track 2, I've got to start track 3. You could make a master track for your program and go ahead and mix in all those songs together and just hit play on it and you're good to go. So definitely some cool options with Soundtrap. So next up is Adobe Spark Tools, and there's 3 tools in the suite, and It's at Adobe, spark.adobe.com, and it's really, really a cool tool set. And there's some overlap with, and I had someone ask me this the other day, well, what do I like better, Adobe Spark or Canva? Because you can use Adobe Spark Page, which lets you create infographics. And it just kind of depends on what you want to be able to do. I like that in Canva, and I didn't mention this, you can link your Bitmoji. So for me, who's a Bitmoji lover, I like that feature. But inside of Spark, it's got Unsplash linked in there, so you can pull up copyright-free images, and they also have their free gallery. So it's kind of depends on what you want to use. And also just the interface is a little bit simpler on Adobe Spark. So if we take a look at a couple of options here. So this is actually a little video that I did in the video tool, which is pretty slick. And I'll let y'all take a look. Lights, camera, action, video production, foster. And I'm hoping you're hearing the audio. I'm not sure. We'll see. Known as the 4 C's. 21st century skills are essential for college and career readiness. So there's just a little taste. I won't have you listen to the whole thing. But what I did was I created just a quick little video about why you'd want to use video production in the classroom. And I brought in just images that were available in there. I did the voiceover. So that's definitely one of the things I like about it, is that I can, as a student, I worked with some students that did a math project where they had to talk through their thinking for a math project that they had done. You can see the image, you can upload your own image, you can move it around, change the layout, but I can do that voiceover piece, which really is good for our learners that aren't really good at writing, but they can explain their thinking. So imagine if they uploaded their work and then they talked through their thinking in the process. So that's a really cool option with Adobe Spark, and it is free. It's another freemium. So the free version is going to give you this right here, that Adobe Spark at the bottom of the video. For student products, I think that's fine. That's not, no worries there. If you want to upgrade and have that be your own logo, you could do that for your like a school logo or school district logo. If I wanted to, I could upgrade and I could put my Tech Tips 411 logo there. But for student projects, totally fine that little logo is there, and it was made in Adobe Spark Video. So here's one of the other tools. This is Adobe Spark Post, which is that infographic option. And what's really cool is you can add in all these elements. I was able to throw in my Genmoji. I can add in photos, icons, text, color. It's very simple and easy to use. And it's going to be a 1-page infographic. And it's really good for students right here. It's pretty cool. Wow, look at this. Barbara says that she says Spark Video is a go-to for me. I have used it with as young as first graders. Wow, that's awesome. See, that tells me that it's user-friendly because the interface is very simple. You add in a picture, you add in text, you add in voice. It's not very complicated, and it's really kind of drag and drop. It's very simple. Awesome. That's great to know that even your first graders were able to use it. That's awesome. So Post is that infographic option. And then the third part of it is you can create pages. So Pages lets you create a website. And what's really cool about creating a website is you can have students create blogs or information pages about things that they're studying in various content areas. So those are the 3 parts of the Adobe Spark tool suite, and you can access that. There is online, but there is also mobile apps, which is really cool. So you can actually do the Adobe Video on an iPad or an iPhone or an Android tablet, which is pretty cool. So next up, I want to talk about Jamboard. And Jamboard is another one of my new favorite things because it's an interactive whiteboard. It's jamboard.google.com. You have access to it if you have a Google account, personal Google account, or your school district's account. So students can go in and participate in an interactive whiteboard. And what's great about this is they can create the whiteboards, or you can have them collaborate with you on tasks. So these are just 2 examples of ones that I created. One is on a nutrition task, and the one on the right is for science for renewable and non-renewable energy, being able to add in ideas, because you can add in Post-it notes, you can doodle and draw on it, or you can just manipulate. For example, this one, it would be categorizing and moving these pictures under the right category, whether it's renewable or non-renewable. So Jamboard is a super easy to use tool that you might want to check out if you have a Google Apps for Education, account. Next up is Wakelit. And again, just running through a bunch of different tools because I've talked about all different tools so far this summer. And I just kind of wanted to have one session where I just kind of put them all out there that teachers can go investigate. So next up is Wakelit. And Wakelit is one of my absolutely favorite tools because it's a content curation tool I can gather in, and it's all sorts of resources, and I can add in resources from the web. Anything that's web-based, you can upload elements and all of that, which is really, really cool. But some other things you might want to consider doing is that you can use it for a self-paced lesson. For example, HyperDoc style, but the 5E model using Wakelit, which means that now you've differentiated your content for students because it's got Immersive Reader built in, which is one of the best things about it. Immersive Reader allows any student to access the content. And the other thing is that students can use it for the research, especially middle and high school students. They can have their own account if they're 13 or older. If not, you can have students contribute to an account without, they can contribute to a collection if they don't have an account, if they're under 13, by you sharing out a code. So it's super slick. If you want to learn more about Wakelit, I have an entire session on Wakelit. I'm going to put the link in the description so you can go back and do a deep dive in that if you'd like to. I love it. You love this for online teaching. Yeah, it's super cool. All of this stuff is definitely going to help for the online teaching. So the one thing I like about Wakelit, and here's a specific example of how one of my teachers used it. They were having their students do a coding activity, and this was during distance learning. And instead of having them each submit their links into Google Classroom, where only she would get to see them, and she wanted it to be a quick way for students to access it, she created a Wakelit collection and let them all be contributors. And when she did that, they all got to post in their links. So when kids went to the collection, they could see everybody's stuff and they could click on it and see it all inside there. The benefit of that, doing it that way, is when you let someone be a contributor, all they can do is add to your collection. They cannot take it away, which is really good if you're a little concerned if your students might go in and delete or move or change anyone else's work. So for example, Johnny's supposed to post his work in there. All he can do is add his link in. And if he messes up the link, he can remove his and add it in again. So that's a great way versus doing like a Google Doc where you're trusting that everybody's putting a collaborative doc. You're trusting that everybody's going to leave everyone else's links alone. So it's a great way for you to have students contribute to work and using Wakelit. So love Wakelit. Definitely want to check that out. Next up, I want to talk about Sway. So Sway is a Microsoft tool, and I always tell people that it's basically PowerPoint on steroids. So for those of us that I was in the classroom for a long time and everybody did PowerPoints, and basically watching 25 of the same presentations can get a little tiresome, and you want students to really focus more on the content more so than the bells and whistles. Because I remember a lot of my students would be like, oh, I'm trying to get the word to spin here, and I want this transition to go here. That's all well and good, but I really want you to get the content in there. I want you to show me what you know. So Sway is pretty cool because it's an interactive presentation. So this is actually a screen recording of me scrolling through. I pulled in social media tweets and so forth. You can add in text, you can add in information. You can change the look and feel of it, and it is super cool. And you can collaborate. So once you've started one, you'd be like the lead person that's created your Sway. You can easily share the link to somebody else. And so now it's become a collaborative thing. So I'm focusing on my communication skills. I'm focusing on my collaboration skills if I'm working with a partner. Again, this is allowing for students that are working remotely and have to do tasks together. Sway is another really good tool. And Sway is actually free. It is part of the Office 365 suite, but they actually let you have access to it if you just go to sway.office.com, I believe. So if you're a Google district, you could still check out Sway. All right, next up, I want to talk about a couple of other things here. How are we feeling? What do we think? Learning some things? This is one of my favorite things for AR, VR. This is the Merge Cube. If you're not familiar with the Merge Cube, it is an amazing resource for students. And as you can see, that was the first time I recorded a video when I brought mine home. I went and bought all the ones that they had at Walmart. And if you heard about the Merge Cube craze, that's when they were on sale at the dollar store, or excuse me, on sale at Walmart for $1. Leslie Fisher posted about it, and I think every teacher that saw that went, I'm going straight there. I don't even know what it is, but it's only $1. I mean, you know how educators are. I was like, it's only $1. I need to get one of those. So I went and filled up a cart and started playing with them. And that was when it was a game, really. It was more for fun. And then Merge EDU came along, and they started developing resources. turn that music off there. They started developing resources that could be used in the classroom. So this is actually the STEM career fair. Set this up. I had a table of different ed tech tools for students to play with. And so what it does is you have this foam cube that when the iPad targets on it, it's going to it's going to augment the reality. You can actually see different things. And what's really cool is that there's multiple lessons and tools that you can integrate and use with your learners. I had the opportunity this year to push into classrooms and do a couple of lessons, and it was amazing how engaged the learners were. And it really focuses on that critical thinking because it's allowing them to get that spatial awareness and just higher level thinking, engaging in different content. So over there on the right, you'll notice that that's actually the printable merge cube. So they had that merge shared that out because everybody was been home for distance learning. And they're like, you can actually print out a merge cube, and it is possible. Here we go. So depends on how big you print it, how big your your augmented reality experience will be. So if you're not familiar with Merge Cube, it's super cool. Lots of resources. I'm going to put a link to in the description that shows a lesson that I did with Merge Cube in case you are curious to check it out. Since you can print the cubes now, that cuts down on your expense because the cubes got back up to like $15 a piece, which is still not bad. And then you can pay for access. There's a trial, I think, for 3 months for you to explore the online platform, and then you can pay for seats for students. So it's a really, really cool tool, and I wanted to share that with you guys. So along the same lines of augmented reality and virtual reality, this is Adobe Aero, and I wanted to share this because this really touches on that critical thinking and creativity because it lets students create their own augmented reality. You can go in and create scenes. So this would be a really cool way to engage learners in all different content areas to create scenes or scenarios or settings from text that they're reading. And so what Adobe Aero is, and it's a free app, it is iPad and iPhone only, but what it does is it lets you bring in artifacts to the real world. It augments the reality. So I can go in here and I can pick from free assets. Now there's an upgrade to get more features, but just to get them started. So I was able to grab my little robot. I can move it, arrange it, put it in my reality. So what's really cool is that students can use this to create, again, demos, examples, recreate settings, historical events, and all sorts of stuff if they want. So if you are interested in AR and VR, you might definitely want to check out Adobe Aero. It is a free app, iOS for iPhone and iPad. All right, just a couple more apps and tools to go. Here's another app. Most of the stuff I'm sharing has been websites and just, web-based applications, but there are a handful of apps that I wanted to share if you are an Apple user, just because we have, a number of folks that use those tools. So this is Apple Clips. Has anyone heard of Apple Clips? I'm just curious if anyone's heard of Apple Clips. If so, let me know in the chat. Drop it in there if you've heard of Apple Clips or played around with Apple Clips. Apple Clips is a really cool free video editing tool and recording tool that you can use on your iPhone. So I got two little clips here. And if you notice right away, just looking at it, it looks different because you have the ability to put filters. So over here on the left, I made myself a little cartoon character, which was lots of fun. So we're going to look at that one really quick. And I want you to see what else it does. All right, let's see here. Wait, there's the audio.
Speak while recording your live text.
So what's powerful with Apple Clips is the fact that when you're recording, you can turn on for it to do the closed captioning. And oh my goodness, it is super, super cool to be able to turn that on. And you can even go in and choose the language. So I had one of my foreign language teachers use this for the kids to do their projects, for them to do their practice in Spanish. And it would actually do the captioning in Spanish. And it's a great way for them to see, am I pronouncing the words correctly? Is it capturing what I'm saying? So it's pretty cool. And I like that I can do the cartoon version of that. But this one over here, I set it in black and white because we were talking about the Tuskegee Airmen. And therefore, if I wanted to do something historically based, great way to do that for social studies. And you can app smash. You can take this and then share it out in another tool. And I'm going to talk about app smashing here in a minute. I see here that my friend Shelly says, love Clips. Love it. Yeah, it's super cool. And I have to admit, I'd not really paid attention to it, but the powerful part is that live captioning option, and the fact that you can change the way it looks and feels, and kids really can get super creative. There's an entire, and I'll try and put the link in the description. I watched an entire series, like a little video tutorial on ways that you can use clips for kids. And it's just blew my mind. Sorry for my non-iPhone friends. I'm sorry. There we go. Barbara says, love clips easy, sometimes app smash with it. I'd be curious how you app smash with it. I'm thinking you could do your editing on that and then upload it to Flipgrid would be one cool way to do it. Also, you could do some of it with green screen by Doink, do some green screen action as well. So super right here. Look at this. I love this. Easy enough for my kinders to use. That says a lot right there. And let's be honest, these kids are so tech savvy that they have no fear in just boom, 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 tapping around the screen and figuring it out. That's awesome. So that's Apple Clips. And sorry for my non-iOS users. I only threw in like 2 or 3 that I wanted to share. All right. So next up, Google Slides. And I'm sure you're like, well, we already know about Google Slides. What can we do with Google Slides that's kind of different? So one of the things that I started doing, was super excited. Finally got to do a project this year at the end of the year with a science teacher, is to do stop motion. Has anyone used Google Slides to create stop motion? To me, this really levels up, because this is critical thinking, because kids got to think about how are they going to depict what they're trying to depict in their scenes. It has to do with collaboration if you put them in teams, and that communication skill, because they have to be able to depict what they want to say. So the first 2 scenes were my example ones that I shared with the kids. And then we got, when I started working with the kids, the last 2 scenes I made live so I could demonstrate with them. So how cool is that to be able to create stop motion using Google Slides? So that's really kind of leveling up a tool that you have access to. And in essence, if you are a PowerPoint user, if you're an Office 365 school, you can do the same thing with them. Each slide has the elements on it, and it's just moving incrementally to get that look. And then you can really level up by exporting that presentation and using a tool called Tall Suite. So this is Tall Tweet, excuse me. This is mashing a little bit of Google Drawings with slides and Tall Tweets to create my cartoon that's all about my role as an ed tech specialist. So that's some app smashing right there for you. All right. So those were some things and some app smashing ideas you might want to do. You might want to use green screen by Doink and use it with iMovie and then or Apple Clips and mash that up. And you might do a little bit of video editing in Adobe Spark because you like some of those features, and you can download that video and then you can app smash by bringing that into Apple Clips to put your my brain just went out on me. The closed captioning on it. You can app smash by creating your videos in one of the tools and then bringing that video into Book Creator. So it's a really, truly an interactive book. You can create your own Google Drawings and stuff. And you can bring those original drawings into other tools. And there's some other ones on there that you can do some more app smashing. And I love this question right here. All right. Mary says, do you think Merge has applications in the ELA classroom? I do think so. Because I think, well, there's actually an app that they had, and I want to say it's called something north, 90 degrees, something degrees north. I've got to find the right link. It's actually a kind of a choose your own adventure story app. So basically, as you're turning the cube, you're picking different elements, and it's like a choose your own adventure that I saw a lot of teachers were using in language arts. I do also think that because if you're doing interdisciplinary stuff, having them look at the different content, whether it's a physical science task or a earth science task, and have them write about what they learned, or there's just lots of options. And the other thing you can do, and I should have mentioned this, is that you can actually use another tool called Tinkercad and have students create a 3D design. So like they could create the setting from a story, for example, The Outsiders. They might recreate the church. They might recreate the movie theater, a specific scene, and put their characters in there. And they could do that in Tinkercad, which is free. It's a 3D design tool. You can export that as an OBJ file, and then you can let that, you can import that to your Merge Cube. So really that storytelling setting, and then you can use it for visualizing what you've created. So just another option there for ELA. And they're also developing more lessons. They keep adding more lessons. I have a presentation slide deck that I've been adding them together. So I can share that with my teachers and say, here's what's available. Let me know what would work for you. I'm working on updating that. So hopefully some more ELA related stuff will be coming in, but I love that question. Great question. All right. So here's like a list of a couple of different projects based on content area. And this is not an exhaustive list. This is just a list I've been working on. So these are project and lesson idea using video or audio. So these are like specific things you might want to do if you want your students to be working with on a video project or an audio project, such as a podcast. So if we were talking about foreign language, it could be a commercial, newscast, or travel guide. In language arts, it might be an interpretation of a poem or literary work. Original productions, so many options. Science, it could be videoing science processes in nature. Math, it could be explaining concepts. So that's video options there. But I've also got some other things because we have different types of projects you might want to engage your learners in. For example, lesson ideas for like infographics or social media style type projects, because really that touches on that communication skill, and bringing that in with their content is the ability to, share your information and do it, in an appropriate way, and providing them opportunities to do that. So maybe in the foreign language class, it could be share travel tips for the countries that they're studying, or maybe in PE, it could be highlighting nutrition tips by creating little infographics using the tools we talked about. So there's a number of other, those are different project ideas. Those touch on being design things in kind of a one-page, small little bucket of information. And then the last, these are some more ideas here. This is creating either like a website or blog, and how you might want to do that in your different subject areas. You might have students create a nutrition blog, an exercise blog. You might have them help to build a content vocabulary unit resource site with information that you need for your specific subject. I love, Nancy says, great ideas on the OBJ file. Yes, I played around with that. That's back to the merge cube. I created in Tinkercad my Tech Tips 411 logo, and then I exported it and brought it in, and it was really, really cool to do that. Awesome. All right, so there we are. That was today's session, just running through the apps. Hopefully you got some ideas. So our goals were to explore apps and tools that foster the 4 Cs. Think we did that, and to hopefully gain project and lesson ideas for fostering the 4 Cs. Give me a thumbs up or a yes in the chat if you did get at least one idea of something you want to explore or a new tool that you want to check out. I'd love to know that. Or if you have any questions or comments, drop them in the chat. I'm going to hang out here for a second. If you've got any questions that you would like to ask, I would love to hear from you. Questions, thoughts, comments, ideas, anyone? All right. On that note, for those of you that haven't already checked out, I'd love for you to check out my Tech Tips 411 website. Tons of resources there that might be beneficial for you and your learners. And you can also sign up for my weekly tech tips that will resume in July, but you can also go back and check out the archives available on my website. Also, if you want to, you can check out Facebook and check out my Tech Tips 411 site as well. This is, a resource. If you're a Facebook user, you can check it out there. I got some folks tuning in, watching live on YouTube and also on Facebook. So if you're my Facebook friends and you want to check out all of the videos in the archives, including my tutorials and projects and lesson ideas, that's on my YouTube channel. You might want to check that out. And last but not least, you can grab my mobile app, which you can have all the resources on my site, Jen's favorite gear and all sorts of cool stuff right here that you can access on a mobile device. So that is all the good stuff right there. So if you haven't already done so, let's see here. I'd love for you guys to go ahead and subscribe. If you found this video beneficial, give it a thumbs up. Let me know. I appreciate it. Barbara says, thank you. Great affirmation for some things I use and new things too. That's awesome. That's the goal. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. Guess what? Next week, I do have one more week of PDs. Let's take a look at those real quick. The final week of PDs is going to include Office 365 tips and tricks. I'm going to be sharing all about screen recording tools on Tuesday, all about video creation tools on Wednesday, and talking about creating with Canva. We're going to do a little deeper dive, show you what Canva is all about. And on Friday, my last session is going to be all about Bitmoji. So those are my final sessions. Hopefully you're going to join me for any one of those. Love for you to guys check that out. I would appreciate that. And hopefully I'm thinking I'd like to resume these after I've got one more week left. I'm thinking I might want to continue with doing some live streams once the school year starts back up or before school, with some more training. So I'd love to hear if you're finding these sessions beneficial. Let me know, drop in a comment and everything. I appreciate it. Thank you guys so very much. I hope you guys have an awesome weekend.